Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks so much for joining our monthly leadership video. Today, I want to just start by acknowledging that there is a massive international crisis that is sweeping the globe, and that is the coronavirus or the COVID-19. And the reality is this isn't the first crisis that most of us have faced. In fact, I remember when I very first became a Christian in 1988, they were predicting at that time that it was going to be the end of the world that September or October. I don't remember exactly what they were saying. In fact, I've lived through the Mayan end of the world, the Mormon end of the world. I've lived through 3 of the Christian ends of the world. We've lived through encephalitis, SARS, Corona, you name it. We're always going to be faced with some kind of a crisis. And I'm not saying that in any way to make light of the things that we struggle through, but the reality is, as leaders, regardless of what's going on around us, we have a responsibility to be able to lead. And so that's what I really want to talk about today, about how do we lead in tough times. And I want to talk to you about 6 specific tensions that I think are crucial for leading in critical, difficult times. So let's just jump right into it. The first thing that we have to do, the first tension that we have to live in, is that we have to be able to confront reality while we're still able to control our own fears. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, it doesn't make any sense for Christian leaders or any leaders to live in the midst of a time like this and not just stop and say, hey, Corona is real, and its impact on our churches, on our businesses, on our families, on our finances, on our infrastructure is real. And yet at the same time, we can't let our hearts or our leadership or our organizations give way to fear or to panic or to doomsday sort of ideologies or behaviors. We have to be able to sort of, with a calm, cool mind, steer our organizations, steer our groups, steer our teams, steer our families in the midst of this. Now, that means that we never lie and we never mislead. In other words, we're not trying to spin the truth. That's not what I'm saying. We're not trying to cover up the realities of what we're facing. And it's okay for us to acknowledge how we personally feel. It's okay to say, hey, I personally have an adult daughter who has a compromised immunity because of a severe autoimmune liver disease. That's just real. And yet in the midst of it, I need to be able to say to our organization, to our team, to you, guys, we're going to get through this. And I want you to hear me say that. Guys, we're going to get through this. As a church, we're going to get through this. As groups, we're going to get through this. As teams, we're going to get through this. Not only that, but I want you to know with absolute certainty that God has a plan for the well, for your family, for your company, whatever it is that is causing you that sense of panic or nervousness in your heart, whatever it is that's driving that in the hearts of your people or your teams or your family, I want you to know that it's okay for us to acknowledge honestly where we are, but we don't allow the fear to control us, number one. Number two, let me just give you a verse really quick about that. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, Paul says, we're destroying speculation and every lofty thing that raises itself against the knowledge of God. We're taking every thought captive into obedience for Christ. In other words, Paul was saying, hey, listen, I get it. What's going on in our lives is tough, but we're not going to let that thought, that reality dominate our movement, our faith, or our hope towards the future. Number one. Number two, we're going to be mission first. That's the what. But we're still going to be strategically centered. That's the how. So here at The Well, our mission is that we love people into deeper levels of relationship with Jesus Christ. That's not going to change. So even in the midst of the corona, the COVID-19, in the midst of whatever your family, your team, your company might be going through, you're never going to lose sight of what the overarching mission is. But every one of us have strategies. We have goals. We have processes that we have put into place to ensure how that works and to maintain culture and integrity and all those kinds of things. And so even while we are mission first, we are strategically centered. So for us, that means that even in the midst of tough times, we're going to continue to GEM. That's GEM. So we're going to continue to grow. Our first step in terms of our strategy is that we want to grow people spiritually and we want to grow them relationally. So during times of chaos, we don't give up on thinking how we can continue to love individual people into a deeper level of relationship with God, and how we can continue to love them into a deeper level of relationship with one another. Because we're convinced if we would help people continue to grow in the midst of tough times in their personal walk with the Lord, and continue to help them to grow in relationship to us and to one another, that the natural byproduct of that is, even in the midst of chaos and even in the midst of catastrophe, that we actually could continue to grow numerically, that we could grow in terms of size, that we could grow in terms of influence, that we could grow in terms of opportunity, that we could grow in terms of voice. And I'm convinced that there's a tremendous opportunity for churches our size in the midst of this time of unsettling, to be able to have a unique place, to plant sort of a unique flag in our culture and our communities as we begin to ramp out of this. And if we would be creative, if we'd be aware, if we would be poised, then God is going to position us for some neat opportunities. And I believe that with all my heart. The second step for us then is the E, that we're going to engage through serving and through mission. And we don't give that up just because we are quarantined. We don't give up that space. So we still look for ways to serve one another. We still look for ways to serve the body. We still look for ways to serve our neighbors and to do outreach. So there's a tremendous opportunity right now to be able to ask and answer questions that your neighbors might be having. There's a tremendous opportunity to serve them as you go out to the store and find that treasure trove of toilet paper and go ahead and buy an extra package so that someone else can breathe a little easier. Whatever it is, finding ways to serve and to reach out, to love people, and ultimately to multiply the life of the leader. So these things that fundamentally make us who we are, we don't stop doing them just because times are hard, because an organization is like an organism. It is always in the process of either growing or dying. And if we're not willing, and by willing, if we're not willing to pay the price to grow during difficult times, then what happens is we come out of those difficult times having experienced death and contraction somewhere in our life. We're not willing to give that up, so we want to encourage you, continue to be mission first and strategy centered. The next thing is we want to be transparent, but we want to communicate confidence. And I know this sounds a little bit like the first thing, but where the first thing is more about me dealing with my own spirit of fear and the spirit of fear that everyone is dealing with, and my own ability to acknowledge where I am and where we are as an organization, this is more about making sure that you have good communication. So it's important that you talk about as a group what's going on, that you talk about as a team what's going on, and that you're fully honest. Hey, we have the stuff we need. Hey, we don't have the stuff we need. Hey, we're going to be able to come together. We're not going to be able to come together. Whatever it is. And that we communicate those things with absolute clarity and also candor. But candor is never an excuse for unkindness. So that we want to be transparent, we want to be clear with people so that they know exactly what their marching orders are, so they know exactly what's expected, so they know exactly what's available, and we want to be able to do it with a confidence that actually causes people to want to step into that. So that confidence is actually a soothing thing. Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the answer plainly on tablets so that the people who are running with it can carry the correct message to others. In other words, our confidence and clarity is ultimately what's going to give other people the ability to re-communicate our culture, our hope, our faith, whatever else is going on in our life. Number 4, we want to build culture, but we want to protect people. So when we think about building culture, what we're talking about is continuing the heart, continuing the impetus, continuing the focus, continuing the environment that existed when we were all together, that culture, that intangibleness that we all had together. But at the same time, We have to take care of individuals. During times of crisis, more than ever, it's important that you understand the condition of your people. So we love people into deeper levels of relationship with Jesus Christ. It's not something that is just global, it's also personal. Could you imagine if Moses was leading the Israelites through the Red Sea and didn't pay attention to how quick they could move or how they were traveling and got to the other side, turn around, no one had gone with him? I mean, after all, we're talking about leading our people through hard times, not beating them up in tough times. So John Maxwell said this. He said, leaders who are moving but no one is following, they're really just taking a walk. So of course, we're going to maintain our culture, we're going to maintain our excellence, we're going to maintain all the things that make us uniquely us, but we're going to do it with a people forward attitude. We're going to do it with a protecting people sense in our heart. The next thing is we want to be wise with our resources, but we want to use our resources. So we've all learned that we need to be good stewards, and that's absolutely true. But we need to sometimes the best way to steward resources is to spend them or to give them or to consume them. And so we have to be wise. We don't want to be frivolous or reckless, but at the same time, we don't want to be afraid to use them. Luke chapter 16, verse 9 and 10 says, here's a lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then, when your possessions are gone, they're going to welcome you into an eternal home. Verse 10, if you're faithful in little things, you'll be faithful in large ones. In other words, if you know how to handle your group, your team, your home, the things that God has blessed you with, you're going to have a better understanding for leading larger organizations, larger teams, larger groups, more resources. God's going to trust you. But if you're dishonest or mishandle little things, you're not going to be ready with greater ones. Here's the thing I want you to hear me say. Guys, if you're having to use up some of your savings, if you're having to use more time, don't worry about it. The whole reason you have rainy day savings is for when it rains. And guys, I got to tell you, it's pouring. So don't be afraid as you use those things, and not just for yourself, but as you use those to engage and serve and minister to other people and bless the church, bless your neighbors, bless your coworkers, bless your family. As you're able to use those things, God is going to trust you with greater responsibility. So be wise, but be willing to use them. And finally, be future-minded, but celebrate where you have come from. Proverbs 31:25 says, wisdom is clothed in strength and dignity. She looks to the future and she laughs. She has no fear of the future. That's how we want to be. We want to look to the future and know, guys, it's going to be okay. Here's the truth. At some point, this corona epidemic is going to end. And then, sometime this fall, next winter, it's going to kick back up again. All the experts are pretty much in agreement over that. And then, this eventually is going to be cyclical in our life. Not at the same level, but to some degree, corona is with us to stay. And the same thing that the Spanish flu that sprang up and took so many people's lives in the early part of the last century has been with us ever since. It's just the flu, influenza A. So here's what I want you to understand is that God is going to get you through this. Just like all the other things that we have come through, God is going to bring you through this. And at the same time that we're looking to the future, part of the way that we're able to do that with confidence is looking to the past. Constantly, Israel was commanded to build memorials to remember the things that God had done in the past, to know with certainty that God hadn't brought us through all of these things just to let us fail here at the threshold of His promises. So be confident, be courageous, be people-centered, be great, and let's lead with these 6 tensions through this tough season. Well, thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time. We are absolutely here for you. Feel free to give me a call, 630-262-1083 at the campus, or you can reach out to me, Jerry, cometothewell.org. You can also reach us via social media. Just any way that you need to, let us know how you're doing, and we will serve and minister to you in every way that we possibly can. we're trusting God for great things, not only in you, but through you, as you continue to lead and love the way that God has called you to do. God bless you. Have a great day.